Hey everyone, it's Chris Russell with RegTech Media. Today's show is a panel discussion recording from a recent Jobg8 Summit down in Nashville. A panel of industry experts talking about AI and recruiting. I got some of this audio, so I thought I'd play it back for you here on the show. Special shout out to my friends at HireTool, HireTool.com, a sponsor of RegTech. They just fixed the Facebook search functionality within HireTool. So if you were looking to get back into Facebook sourcing, check them out at HireTool.com, and I hope you enjoy this audio.
Welcome to RegTech, the podcast where recruiting and technology intersect. Each month, you'll hear from vendors shaping the recruiting world, along with recruiters who'll tell you how they use technology to hire talent. Now, here's your host, the mad scientist of online recruiting, Chris Russell.
Okay, so this is going to be a panel on AI and recruiting, and we're sort of focusing on what's really going on as opposed to what's been hiding. And I think first we're going to start off with a very, very brief introduction for each panelist, and then we'll just jump into questions.
Good morning. My name is Cole Gepker. I'm the VP of Technology at Intello. We do recruiting automation, so we built a candidate database and allow our customers to search that database, identify, qualify, and engage with candidates, especially for highly independent roles. And AI is definitely helping us with a lot of the automation involved in that.
And Randy Moore, hello. And I'm the CEO of Pocket Recruiter. And we obviously have a system that uses AI, so hoping to be able to spread some things.
Ryan Bush, Vice President of Business Development at Tax Recruiter. We're a candidate engagement platform that leverages text, live chat, and artificial intelligence to kind of drive engagement and higher response rates and times throughout the entire hiring cycle. So EDI, focus on partnerships and go-to-market. That's kind of the lens in which I come to the panel.
Hi, my name is Sumit. I am the founder of Ideal.com. So think of customers that receive too many applications. What we do with AI, we study information such as who applied, who was hired, what did their assessment look like, who's performing well. We take all of that data to give recruiters insight into who they should talk to and who they shouldn't talk to.
Okay, so we have way too many questions for the panel, so we are going to start off with a good one, I think. Many people would argue that AI exists on a continuum from sort of mimicry up to a sentient non-human being. And from your point of view, where would you say we are right now on that continuum? And it would be great if you could give an example of something that's not so intelligent versus something that is intelligent.
Sure, I'll start. I think a lot of the non-intelligent stuff, if you kind of look at the spectrum, you kind of start off with like simple automation, doing things that people don't want to do. So what are some examples? Interview scheduling. People don't want to go back and forth. It's not exactly an intelligent task. It just takes a lot of time. So we have those kind of tasks here, and then we kind of go through the spectrum into providing insights into like, why should we talk to this person, or how did we screen this person? So I think there's a lot of automation tools right now that are intelligent, but not at the spectrum of providing intelligence that a human couldn't kind of think of themselves. So we have interview scheduling. I'm trying to think of other examples. But let's see where my comes to mind. But yeah, I think that's where we are.
Well, I think about the candidate experience, everything from the company identifying them to reaching out to scheduling to screening to offer. And there's a funnel. And so the question is, how much of the funnel can you automate? How deep can you go down the funnel? And so we're always thinking about like the actual human interaction. We haven't been able to do much automation on once it gets to qualification. But what those early stages of the funnel, we're kind of pushing down and taking those out of being highly manual and being automated.
Yeah, I just don't want everyone to think that AI is just automation. Automation can be done without AI. So there's a huge spectrum, right? And automation will be around forever. Like interview scheduling arguably might not even use AI. It could just be much of automation that exists without AI. So there really is a broad spectrum.
Yeah, I would just piggyback on that. I think that a value there, but I think it's important to kind of distinguish that. I also agree with Cole that I think the challenge of automating or adding AI or replacing or augmenting increases as you go down the funnel. So, I think collecting information, knocking candidates out with a couple of questions, that kind of stuff happens at the top of the funnel. It's pretty doable. I think you get down to some of the doomsday questions I'm sure we're going to get, which are are all recruiters going to go away? And that stuff gets more challenging as you get down the funnel.
Yeah, I mean, that actually leads into the next question I had, which is right now, at this point in time, what is out there that you guys would say is just simply impossible or would be incredibly difficult to do for AI in recruiting?
In all honesty, the term AI is also confusing to folks, right? And the definition is all over the place. If you really think about it, as we were discussing, right now a data analyst, a data scientist, we don't even know what they do. So to have us understand what AI is in general, it is a tough feat in itself. I kind of think that when a system intelligently does something on its own without human intervention and learns, I say that you start to break into that mode. Right now, we're at a point where AI is literally you're able to do one task well, and there's no way in the world it can do common sense and decision making and reasoning. So that's where the human can play a big part right now. You're talking many years before we get to a point where the system has these emotional concepts, these decision-making processes that like a human has. So I think that's where the ability to do one task well is about where we are right now.
One thing on the definition of AI, there's something called the AI effect, which is something is artificial intelligence until it's done, and then it's no longer artificial intelligence. So when computers could beat humans in chess, that was AI. And then now that it's been done, that's just processing. That's just computers calculating things. So in terms of what's next, of what's needed to solve, that's AI. And then once we've solved it, then it becomes commonplace and it's no longer considered solved. But I don't think you'll ever really get rid of the human interaction piece of it in terms of, is this person a culture add to my company? That's such a nuanced conversation that you'll never take humans out of the loop in terms of qualifying candidates.
Well, I mean, I will give you guys a quote, and because this leads right out of what Cole was saying, and I think I know the answer, but I'm just kind of curious. So Peter Wells says, he's doing a book on AI and recruiting. He says, AI will eventually eliminate recruiters from the recruiting function. It will eliminate the need for much of the recruiting function itself. It's not a question of whether these will happen, but only of their timing, and their first impacts are around the corner. What do you guys think?
I think we all agree that quote was just to kind of grab headlines and attention. So I think everyone would probably agree that that's really not an accurate statement. All the studies that have been done show that anything that involves creativity, emotion, typically cannot be replicated by a computer. So, if your job is to screen resumes all day, well, you're probably going to be replaced. But if your job is to negotiate with candidates, talk to them, build relationships, you probably won't. And, we've seen that in other markets, sales, customer support, they haven't been replaced by systems. HR typically lags sales and marketing just because just the nature of it. And, those areas haven't been replaced by systems because they can identify a lead and send an email.
Yeah, the automation that's gone into sales and marketing has actually led to more salespeople and more marketers, not less. So the idea that using machine learning to automate the non-human value-added pieces of this would actually improve recruiters is, I think,
So you guys really aren't anticipating, for example, Amazon figuring out some way to completely automate all their hiring and moving it?
In my opinion, I tell people my grandfather was the foreman of an apple orchard. Now there's a truck that goes by and scrapes all the apples. He repositioned position himself into managing the people that drive the trucks through those systems. So every time there's an evolution of the workforce. And with the growing of AI, what happens is if you're a smart designer with any AI, the human is involved in that design because the yeses and nos of how things work takes the humanistic person to sort of say this is right and this is wrong, because a computer in itself is a blank slate and is taught by somebody that's hopefully the expert in that. So will I think that we will be working the same way that we do right now? No. I think that we're going to have to evolve as recruiters in the way that we approach business, the things that we do with recruiting. But I also agree that I think the part of selling an opportunity, presentation skills, because people also forget when they're building the systems that there's humans out there that may not choose to want to work with a bot versus a human. So there's a lot of things out there that are going to evolve and change, I believe, as I said, but I don't think they're going to disappear, because as we talked earlier, I've been around long enough that when the job boards came out, they said that recruiters were going to disappear. And so I think that that's always been told to us every time something new pops up.
You were talking about sort of working your way down the funnel, and one of the things I've heard people talking about, I think I heard this on Jobg8's podcast, they were talking about duplex, and they were talking about how that could be used primarily for scheduling, but you could easily see that as it develops, it could go further down the interview process, and then at some point, I guess there's a human handout. But from what you're saying, couldn't you keep developing all the way down the pipeline?
Well, when I'm hiring for my team, there's definitely a technical component to hiring software engineers, but that's the easy part of interviewing. If I just hired engineers, it might not be easy, but you need collaborative engineers. You need people who actually care and have passion about what you're trying to do in your business. It's a team sport. And to say that we can, with very sophisticated machine learning, kind of emulate that humanness that's required for these highly advanced software, I think we're a ways away from that in terms of evaluation of candidacy.
If you look at the map, hiring is yes or no, right? That's 50-50. So that would mean if I interview two people, I'm typically hiring the first or second person. How many times is that going on right now? Typically we're interviewing many more people, so we're far away. That gives you an easy example of that.
Well, so one of the things that I run into a lot talking to startups and writing on the blog is talking about trying to eliminate bias in the hiring. And certainly a lot of the companies that are flashing AI and their tagline is they're saying we're using it to eliminate unconscious bias. You guys talk about how that might be done, but also how does bias get introduced into whatever the AI is that you're doing?
I can take a shot at that. Yeah, I think, well, to start with the risk, AI should be built on historical data if it's real AI. And so if you have historical bias and you're building AI on that, then you've already poisoned the well. So that's, it's probably obvious to some people, but I think something to be cognizant of. When I think about taking that kind of off the table, how do you eliminate bias? I think it starts with trying to understand where bias is usually interjected into the funnel. I think the funnel is a very productive kind of framework for thinking about how to think through where AI can play a role. And I think at the top of the funnel, I've seen things like redacting resumes for geographics or age or gender, and I think a bot can do that. And maybe there's some benefit there, but at some point, humans are coming back into the process. So I think it can help. I think if you're looking at your own company or your larger customers, and they know where the kind of leak in the funnel is, or the poison, where the poison is being put into the well, and that that might be a kind of D area 0.
We see this problem, we get this question all the time. So you're absolutely right. If you're training based on historical data, which we do, you can train a bias system. So we tell them, the first thing that we do is, the biggest source of bias is someone's name. So what we specifically do, we actually ignore the name when we're making decisions. But then we tell their customers, well, how do you measure unconscious bias right now with your human recruiters? Do you actually do that? Do you have a method of collecting demographic data? And then we tell them, well, we can actually train our system based on your demographic data, and we can measure immediately if we're having an adverse effect on your actual population. So that's an actual objective way of measuring whether or not your system is having an effect. And not many companies out there really collect all of that data or have a quick way of reporting that. So we always ask them, how do you measure your human recruiter? They use it they can't.
I think in our case it's simple. Transparency by design. Creep of bias in any AI that's utilizing advanced pattern recognition is going to run into bias, whether they like it or not. Because it's looking for patterns that are going to create success by nature. That's what you're designing. So if you're not willing to expose your algorithms and willing to expose your results, like a very simple thing, if we want to use recruiting, your score. If you don't know what is creating your scores, and you don't expose that, they can't even understand how you're coming up with that score and why. So you have to be willing to be transparent in your design from the very get-go and with your user community if you want to go against creep, because it's going to come regardless if you like it. The reality is how do you manage it, how do you handle it? And you expose it so the user can make those differentiations. Like I had mentioned, we had a very simple case where we didn't even realize it that this one customer, all of a sudden, this one college, we didn't even realize it, but a bunch of people all were from the same college, and it was all in Asia Pac, so this whole team became one centric group. And we came across the bias was that the system, through pattern recognition, had realized that every single one of them had went to Tishuan, I can't even pronounce it properly, university. So the system was doing its job. It was saying, hey, you keep hiring them. I've just noticed a pattern. And the pattern was exposed, so it was easy to see the pattern when we went and looked at it, and so did the users. So we were able to make a transition to say there's 12 or 13 universities that have a very similar program. Once we introduced them, everybody, the pattern learned that now it's across all of those, to give you sort of an example, but it has to be transparency by design.
Diversity and inclusion is something that's very important to Intel. We try to put it into all our products. And one of the things that we have to be very mindful about is these patterns that are bad. So that we actually try to be, not just treat our models as a black box where we predict this would be a good company, but also the why, what particular aspect of this candidate is what the machine learning model pick up on and expose it, not just to ourselves, but to our end users. One, it builds trust. Don't just trust us that this is a good fit, but we can select for what signals we actually pay attention to. And if they're biasing signals, we can remove them from the models, such that we're not kind of amplifying the negative aspects of hiring.
I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I remember when I was managing a company and I had a bunch of different managers. Even back then, I would notice that certain hiring managers did exhibit hiring bias, and most of the products I've seen out there focus on the front end hiring. But are there products or are there plans for products that focus on the back end, basically letting the company go back and saying we got a hiring problem with this particular hiring manager? Because I mean, you can give them great data and they can still introduce bias at the hiring at the end.
Never studied the back end, so I couldn't tell you personally if there's a product out there that does that. But you could easily, through simple log analysis, start to analyze those types of issues if you see patterns.
Matt was shaking his head yes, so apparently there's
yeah, there's a whole subset of it. Yeah, I would figure there was. I just don't know about that.
Okay, so this is sort of getting down to right where we're at right now. In terms of like the next year or two, what do you think the biggest impact on AI will be for recruiting in terms of like background checks, scheduling, analytics, assessment, where do you think it's going to have the biggest bang for the buck?
Getting pointed at. Sorry. Going on the theme that I kind of brought up earlier, I think that generally speaking, there are a lot of companies, there's a lot of buzz about like very kind of like lofty problem solving with AI, and I think that there's very low hanging fruit to be tackled at the top of the funnel, and I think like that's where your customers, as a job board, that's where you should think about starting. And so for me, that's qualifying candidates, whether it's through a bot or some matching, and then also the scheduling. I also think that engaging the candidate as they kind of move through the funnel is really important. I mean, you have under 4% unemployment now. You can click, you can apply to one job at Career Builder and it goes to 50 companies. So we're seeing the kind of commoditization that applications are ubiquitous. So for me, when I look at kind of an opportunity from an employer's perspective or even a job board to kind of offer a differentiated advantage to their customers, it's what happens post-apply? How do you engage with the candidate post-application? Because they probably just applied to 50 jobs with one click, and they probably didn't even interact with your brand. So if you're reaching out to them, it depends, on the phone or via email click-through rates have lost 45% of their effectiveness over the last 8 years. So people are investing in these platforms that are primarily built on a communication channel that has plummeted in value. I mean, would you buy a stock that had lost 45% in the last 8 years? Buy Facebook right now, it's way down, but so I think it's the top of the funnel, I think it's automating, I think it's pushing candidates through your funnel, and frankly, some of that's not even AI. Sorry to pull the curtain back, but then I think that'll put you in a position to build upon that. That's the low-hanging fruit as far as I'm concerned.
For passive sourcing, where the jobs find the candidate, I think there's a lot of opportunity right now in terms of customization. You don't want to have candidates can tell when they were looked at versus when they're just found. And so being able to customize that outreach should actually make it meaningful to candidates, and being able to give a lot of guidance to recruiters who are trying to make an engaging outreach in terms of bias in terms that may be in the language that they're using, or poking at a particular interest that we engage a candidate, because these candidates are being bombarded with passive outreach. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in using essentially machine learning to make compelling engagement.
I honestly think we all need to think bigger than this. Assessments, this, that, and the other. With the advent of general intelligence over the next couple of years becoming a part of what we do, I think that if we look at this properly, we can turn this into what we call predictive sourcing. Because a recruiter as a human was always taught to sweat all the details up front. The more details you sweat up front, the less problems you have on the back end of any kind of a hire, right? Are they the right price? Are they the right skills? Are they all the details that are involved? And with all of the technology, see, all-in-ones I've never been as big of a favorite because it feels like the jack of all trades, expert at nothing. But I think with mergers and things that are going to happen over the next couple of years, along with the advent of general artificial intelligence coming to play, you can have all of your assessments, all of this stuff, all put into psychographic, all of these factors all rolled up into one expert ball, so you have sweated the details all the way up front, so a lot less happens on the back end. So my biggest opinion is we need to move towards more of a predictive sourcing mentality and model overall.
I actually totally agree with you. I think we're going to move a little bit, in terms of AI, I think there are two factors, efficiency and quality. So I think right now we really focus a lot on efficiency, and I think that it probably will be a focus for the short term, but people are going to start moving more to using AI as an augment to help them be more intelligent, more insight, combining all those data sources. So it's moving towards helping improve the quality of the hires that we're getting.
I would just piggyback on that. I think that's a natural progression. When you automate and drive efficiency, like just by very nature, you have more time and resources to spend on the high kind of qualitative aspects of things. So I think as a broader kind of comment on what happens to recruiters and what's the role of the recruiting talent in talent acquisition, it just frees up time to focus on those much more high touch human parts of the phone.
I was wondering when you guys were going to get around to quality. So taking this a step further, than a lot of the companies here are operating a job board, or if they don't want to call it a job board, it's a recruitment site or it's a sourcing tool or whatever. It's basically connecting to employers and candidates. So in terms of someone sitting out there in the audience saying, okay, I'm interested in utilizing AI in my system or on my site to improve things, where would you guys say to go? I mean, what would you say to focus on at this point in time? And please be as specific as you can on that. So,
sure, that's very all right. I think one of the biggest problems or challenges I think out there, and it's not just job boards, but obviously in this conference, it's important to think about that, is we often build our systems based upon the business side. And we forget that recruiting is a two-sided sale. Now, real estate's close, but one side of the damn building. We have two humans that have different interests, different lives, different opinions, trying to marry these people together. So I think job boards need to think about the candidates that are actually going to their sites, provide them with better decision-making abilities. Most of these applicants don't even know how to interview properly. They don't know what's the right companies for down the road for them. Maybe a career progression AI that we can kind of utilize. Let's start to actually think about the candidates that are coming to our sites, because quite frankly, without candidates, no recruiter wants to go to your job board. So in essence, you really need to attract that talent, and that talent will come if you provide them with more than just a place to log their resume, and maybe a job alert that gets kicked out to once in a while that logs their emails, and half the time not even correct. So the reality is if you provide more of a service to these candidates, you'll attract more of these candidates more often, and they'll also buy in and trust your site better than they would others. That would be my advice.
I think it depends on kind of what your business model is. If you're running a job board to drive revenue through clicks and you're not interested in having candidates live on your site or exist in your site, and you're not concerned with where the candidate goes when they apply, then there's all kinds of things that you should probably be thinking about, and you are with analytics and programming and all that fancy stuff. If you are, and I think with the advent of Google, I think that we're facing another wave of probably what a lot of people felt with Indeed, which is that there's going to be more disintermediation between the job board and the job seeker and the source of the traffic. So that's my prediction. And so, when you think about that, I think you have to think about having a strategy where you have a meaningful reason for candidates and recruiters to leverage your platform in some way. I happen to think that, again, my kind of area where I really think is under focused on today is kind of post application. So if you're a job board and you can not only deliver candidates, which a lot of people can deliver today at a commoditized price, but you can also deliver the tools to help your customers engage with those candidates and push them through their funnel faster than your competitors. you're going to get sourced and tagged as the source that hire. You're going to get more business. So I think that those two things are part and parcel. And if I was not in a pure kind of just like trying to drive everyone off of cliffs, that's where I'd be focused, is giving my customers engagement tools that are going to get the candidates hired through my funnel faster than a job.
Okay, well, thanks guys, and I thought I'd open it up to any questions. I think not surprisingly, Matt has a question, so.
Yeah, no, so I think for me, there is a common definition for AI. You said that there wasn't before, but it's called rational actors, which is the exact opposite of recruiting. But all that is to say, when you talk about tasks like scheduling or resume review, these very simple tasks to automate, at some point in time, the cost of technology has to exceed the cost of offshoring, because I can pay somebody in the Philippines 3 cents a resume to review and put in my system, right? So what is the advantage to a technological solution for what can be done at scale cheaper by users?
Looking at resumes is a great example. Like, I mean, can you hire someone at a low cost to do as good a job as a system? I'd argue not. Like, you can actually, that's a good example of using AI that could probably be more accurate and more efficient and more, I would argue, more cost effective than actually hiring a cheap resource overseas. So in those cases, I think there's intelligence that a human can't, or a human would have to spend 20 minutes on each resume, for example. So I think in those cases, that is a good fit. And that's kind of moving towards the quality of hire piece. It's using real intelligence to help a recruiter. The interview scheduling, things like that, yeah, you can hire someone to do that cheaper. I would assume that the tools are cheaper than using a human to do it.
I think that there's an interesting kind of piggyback here with on that scenario, which is the continuity of data. So you can pay someone 3 cents to look at a resume, but if we get to the point, I think that we will as we see more consolidation, because in the kind of landscape that we have right now is like systems with a ton of data and little AI companies that don't have any data, which means like this car with no gas. And so there's going to be a natural marriage and merger, and there's going to be consolidation there. And then I think we're going to see some really interesting things like, predictive, not just on who I've hired, but like who are my top performing salespeople tied into my sales force that's like tracking all my reps' performance. And how do I tie that data to the data of my ATS, and how do I tie that data to give me some predictive analytics about who I should hire? Like, if you're outsourcing 3 cents an interview screen, like you miss the data. You put a big kind of crevice in your kind of data flow, and then you miss out.
And that's actually a good example of where humans might not be able to do all that. So imagine talking about that, looking at performance data, looking at assessment. Can a human actually keep all of that in their mind and then help make a screening decision? Absolutely not at the price point that you're talking about. But I would argue that humans just can't do all of that. Like looking at all that data, they're not really good at analyzing that mass amount of data.
Well, my point would be, I would think that, humans right now are probably still, in most cases, better recruiters because it's still an evolution. But I think that in the reality of life, if I've got 10,000 jobs right now, and I'm going to pay somebody to evaluate candidates for 10,000 jobs, usually the bigger companies at scale are usually the ones that can see more return right off the bat. And if you've got 20 openings, and you have an offshore person sifting through that, it makes a lot better sense, at least in my opinion. Owning staffing firms, I did. But when it came to volume, it became not practical if I had something that could do an instant review. So that would be my opinion.
Yeah, there has to be both.
Right.
Another question?
Thanks, sorry. Apologies in advance, I was a little late, so if you dealt with this. I do a lot of research and basically involve surveys and whatnot, and we're trying to think of ways of being more creative about that. And I sort of stumbled into recruitment and video interviewing and the AI around in interpreting sort of, facial expressions or whatever they do. And I'm a little curious about that. I heard a disparaging remark here yesterday about the video interviews. I don't know anything about how well that's working or whatever, but is there some application of AI in video interviewing that, and again, apologies if you guys already talked about this, but I'm kind of curious about the opportunity there.
Sure. I mean, there's two types of video engineering companies, at least what I see. Companies that just provide the logistics of collecting that data, and then there's companies like HireVue that try to analyze the sentiment of a person and whatnot. Yeah, there's definitely two. I think there's some value in doing that. If you're able to collect the data, sentiment analysis, a whole area of AI, figuring out someone's emotional state or whatnot. I think there's value in that. Is it worth the price tag? That's where I don't know if it's valuable or not. But the data that is being collected can be analyzed. It does exist. I don't know how accurate it is, but I'm assuming it's a science that will get better and better over time.
I think that they have a while because right now they used to be, the old scenario used to be if you were right left of your right-handed person, that meant you were lying. And the new study just came out a couple of weeks ago that they did a new study that verified that was absolutely false in their pattern recognition that they had done. It used to be if you ate an apple, you got cancer. There is right now, we are so early in stages of assessing the human from those points of view that I think that the accuracy levels are really, really questionable at this point, personal opinion.
Yeah, in terms of sentiment as applied to recruiting, this is a problem we've been trying to solve. And it's kind of interesting. We were looking at candidate replies in terms of were they interested or not. And we ran it through actually Google's sentiment analysis engine. And all of them came back yes, because thank you very much for your interest. Not really in the market right now. Let's keep in touch. The sentiment was positive. The answer was no. And so this is the nuance that goes into recruiting is we're not there yet to be able to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I agree. It's hard stuff.
Well, also, when you're talking candidate to employer, the medium that you're using, language, either written or spoken, is a medium of deception. Both sides are trying to withhold information or disclose information.
Well, you got to realize that people are trying to use metrics and numbers as a selling marketing tool now, and data statistics are all over the place. We had this chat. I'm not a politician kind of guy, but if I went to a very liberal area and I asked one question, it would have one answer. If I went to a very conservative area, I would have a very different answer. It would depend on who I took the statistical focuses from. You hear a lot of these folks out there saying we're 98% accurate, right? Well, we were discussing 98% accurate sounds fantastic, but if I'm doing text analysis on a resume, that would mean 2 mistakes per 100, which would mean there would be 8 mistakes per resume. So in other words, if I'm a recruiter, you're serving me up a resume that you fouled out 8 times out of the time. It's not going to happen for me. So a lot of times be leery when you hear these faces and these statistics, if you will, and try to look a little deeper into where those statistics come from and the reality of it is. So what we personally look for is trust in the actual user. That's where the actual advantage becomes. Is the user actually trusting it? Is it the user using it? And there's really no user right now that I know of that's showing any kind of a trust in that. So I would be leery in those respects until you have that.
Any other questions?
Another episode of RecTech is in the books. Follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Russell or visit rectechmedia.com, where you can find the audio and links for this show on our blog. RecTech Media helps both HR tech firms and employers to get more clients or candidates through our consulting practice and online tools. So be sure to check out our sites like Recruiting Headlines, Job Fairing, and more to stay up to date on what's happening in recruiting. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon on the next episode of RecTech, the Recruiting Technology Podcast.